Software testing is changing fast, and AI is already part of the job. It's not replacing QA, but it's speeding it up, sharpening it, and removing a lot of busy work. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 ways QA engineers can use AI today to assist with real testing tasks. These are real usable examples that work across manual testing, automation, and different experience levels. Let's get into the 5 ways AI can actually help you do better QA work. So let's start with the most basic one. Let's say I want to log into an application. I'm going to prompt create 5 test cases for a website login form. The AI took about 30 seconds to complete that result. Just remember, with any AI tool, even if you put the same prompt, you're using the same tool, and you're using the same model, your results may be different than what I have. Let's look at what I got. Here are 5 clear standard test cases for a website login form. I'll write them in a simple QA-friendly format you can drop in a test plan or test management tool. Test case 1 is valid login. You can see that it formatted the test cases. We didn't have to specify that. It gave us objective, precondition, steps, and expected results. Based on how we've been doing it, this would actually be description, precondition, steps, and expected results. So the objective here is verify user can log in with valid credentials. Precondition is user is registered and active. And the steps are open the login page, enter a valid username or email, enter the correct password, click the login button. The expected result is user is successfully logged in, and user is redirected to the dashboard or the home page. This sounds pretty good. If you need to make any corrections to any of this, you can do that after you export this out. Like, one part that you might want to change is that the redirection after login might not be to the dashboard or the home page. It might be to somewhere specific, depending on where they logged in from. Let's look at the second test case. It says invalid password. The objective here is verify error message appears for incorrect password. Steps, open login page, enter a valid username email, enter an incorrect password, click login. Expected results are login fails, error message like invalid username or password is displayed, and the user remains on the login page. This all sounds 100% correct. One thing to check is the error message, so you'd want to put the actual error message that your application displays in there instead of the generic one. But other than that, it sounds good. The third test is empty fields validation. It says verify validation for empty username and password fields. Steps are open the login page, leave username email blank, leave password blank, click login. Expected result is login is not attempted. Validation messages are displayed. Username is required. Password is required. Once again, this sounds perfectly valid. Obviously, we would want to update these error messages if they were a little bit different. And I would probably change the test case title to empty username and password field validation, because we're checking for both username and password being blank at the same time. Let's look at test 4, invalid username/email. Objective is verify system behavior for non-existent user. The steps are open the login page, enter a non-registered username email, enter any password, click login. Expected results are login fails, error message is displayed, and no sensitive information is revealed. So notice how they changed up the expected results. The expected results should honestly be the same as if you had an invalid password, because you're not going to leave the page. But they added this additional detail of no sensitive information revealed. It's up to you to decide if you want to keep this line that says no sensitive information revealed, because you're trying to log in with an invalid username. So there's nothing to reveal because there's no account associated with that. So honestly, I would just use the same expected results as the login that had an invalid password. But otherwise, this is good. Test case 5 is password masking. Verify password field mask input. The steps are open the login page, start typing in the password field. Expected results, characters are hidden, shows as dots or asterisks, and password is not readable on screen. That one sounds 100% correct. At the end of the results, the AI usually gives you a section where it suggests additional things that you can prompt for. In our case, it says, if you want, I can also rewrite these tests in BDD gherkin format, add negative security or edge cases, and tailor them for mobile apps or automation. Let's go ahead and just choose rewrite in BDD and hit enter. And there we go. It went ahead and rewrote all the test cases in the given when then format. You still want to go through and validate that all the test cases are still correct, because just because it's said that it's going to convert the test cases from the way they were into BDD format, it doesn't mean that it didn't change anything along the way. So you're going to want to go line by line and make sure that everything is still correct. We're going to use AI to create some test data for us. The most typical type of data that you'll be creating is first name, last name, address, phone number, and email. I'm going to ask AI to generate 10 realistic looking data sets for first name, last name, address, phone, and email. I'm going to add one more clause here. I'm going to say, make sure phone and email are not using real numbers or domains. So basically, I don't want the AI to make too realistic of phone numbers or emails, because if our application actually is able to reach out to those phone numbers or emails, then we're going to be sending junk test data to random people, and that's not good. Let's go ahead and hit enter. Okay, it looks like mine is done. It says, here are 10 realistic looking but clearly fictional data sets. All phone numbers use 555 reserved ranges, and emails use non-real domains like test, example, or invalid. This looks good. So you can see it created a table for us. So first one is Emma Caldwell at 1427 Maple Ridge Avenue, Brookfield, Illinois, 60513. Phone number is 555 and whatever that is. Email is emma.caldwell, which is just the first and last name, at example.test. This looks perfect. So this is a quick and easy way to generate test data. So that way you don't have to just keep on smashing the keyboard and typing in ASD for all the first name and last name. It's always good to have various data in your data sets. You can go ahead and use this copy table button and paste it into a document, or paste it into a Excel sheet, or paste it in wherever you want to paste it. And if we scroll to the bottom, you can see it gives us some notes. So phone numbers are 555 range, emails use non-routable domains, addresses are realistic formatting but not intended to map to real individuals. The addresses might still map to real places, but it's very unlikely. And it also gives you next steps of, if you want to export this as a CSV file, you can, which I would recommend if you're using data sets in your test case management system, because then you can just import the CSV as a data set and save yourself a lot of time. We're going to feed this into ChatGPT and ask it to evaluate this and then generate some test cases. Control A and select all of this. And before I paste that in, I'm going to say, evaluate these requirements, give me test cases for the first two requirements, and call out risk areas for those two requirements. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in and hit enter. AI is quickly at work. It says, got it. I'll do this like a QA review, quick evaluation, then test cases for the first two functional requirements, 3.1 and 3.2, and then risk areas for those two. Okay, it looks like it's all done. So first section here is high-level evaluation of the requirements from a QA perspective. Let's go through this real quick. It says, what's good? Clear separation of functional versus non-functional requirements. Survey flow is simple and testable. Question types are well-defined. Anonymity is explicitly stated. And success metrics are measurable. The gaps include no definition of whether survey can be submitted partially, whether questions are all mandatory by default, whether survey link expires, and browser device support scope. Basically, this section of gaps is all things that you would want to clarify with your product and development team before you begin testing, to make sure that you understand fully what your test cases should be. Other gaps include prevent duplicate submissions and any admin auth requirements. Let's scroll down. Here's our test cases for requirement 3.1, which is the survey flow. Requirement looks like they summarized it here. User opens survey link with no login required. User completes survey and submits, and system displays confirmation message. Let's take a peek at one of the test cases. Access survey link without login. The objective is verify survey is accessible without authentication. Preconditions are valid survey link exists. The steps are open survey URL in a new browser session. Ensure user is not logged in. Expected result is survey page loads successfully. No login prompt is displayed, and survey questions are visible. This sounds all valid. You would want to first go back to the requirements document and verify that everything that AI gave you matches up with that. Number two, if you have any questions regarding any of this or the requirements in general for this specific requirement, then make sure you discuss with your team. And number three, you need to use your best judgment to make sure that all of this makes sense before accepting it as a valid test case. I'm going to scroll down. I'm not going to go through every single test case for this one. And it looks like it made 4 test cases for that first requirement. The second requirement that it made test cases for are the survey questions. So you can see rating scale, MCQ, yes, no, short text, and long text. Let's look at the first test case. Rating scale, questions 1 through 5. Verify rating scale accepts only valid values. The steps are locate a rating scale question, select each value from 1 to 5, attempt to proceed without selecting a value if required. The expected results are only values 1 through 5 are selectable, selection is mandatory if marked required, and no invalid value can be submitted. Same thing as before, verify the requirements, double check with your team, and use your best judgment to determine if everything makes sense. Let's scroll down, and it looks like it made 5 test cases for this one. And at the bottom here, it gave us risk areas for requirements 3.1 and 3.2. It says survey flow risk for 3.1 are duplicate submissions, broken confirmation flow, and session handling. If you scroll down, it has risk for 3.2, so inconsistent validation, poor mobile UX, test input abuse, and ambiguous required behavior. So these are all things that you'd want to validate, number 1, if they're important, and number 2, are good things to check while you're doing your testing. As always, double check with your team if it's unclear, and make sure they update the requirements documentation so that everything is in line. Of course, at the bottom, it gives us a wrap up and suggested next steps, but we're not going to need any of that for this one. Now, let me show you how to use AI to generate automated web application tests using Playwright. I previously asked Copilot to generate a prompt that I can use to generate Playwright code in a consistent way. So let's take a look at this. It says, generate a Windows-friendly Playwright JavaScript starter project for web app testing with all required files, a clear README, and boilerplate examples. Follow the instructions exactly. The goal is to produce a complete runnable Playwright JS starter that a newcomer on Windows can clone, install, and run immediately. You can see the constraints here. We're using JavaScript, CommonJS, and the test runner is Playwright test. Requirements are listed here, so Node.js, 18 LTS, Playwright needs to be in the dev dependencies. Project scripts for typical workflows include run, headed, UI, report, install browsers, and codegen. Keep on going. You can see that it should make a package.json with the scripts that I just mentioned above. Here's the outline of the playwright.config file. Here's the gitignore file. Here are the instructions in the README. And I also asked it to generate some example tests. So here's the example test. It will also give me example page objects, some test utils, and I guess it's going to give me templates for copying. Let's go ahead and test this out. So I have a demo app here for Monster Dream Team. I'll have it try to automate the test for the login form. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this file into the prop window. I have it set to agent mode, and my model right now is Claude Sonnet 4.5. So I'm just going to say use Playwright starter prompt file to generate a working login test for, and I'm going to paste in the URL. I'm also going to tell it username is bob@bob.com. Password is test123. One more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab the DOM from here so that it has something to work with. So I'm just going to grab the body element here and let's paste that in and go ahead and run that. So while it's generating, you can see right now there's nothing in my Explorer window, so there's no files already pre-existing in this project. It's just going to go based on the instructions I put in the prompt and the DOM elements that I provided in order to create a working Playwright project. Okay, it looks like it's done. So let's just follow the instructions and see if this works. First step is to open the terminal and type in npm install. That's installed. Next thing is to do this command here. And then I guess I just need to run the test. So I'm going to run it in UI mode so you can see what the test looks like. So it's going to be npm run UI. So it looks like we have a few tests in here. We have example spec.js, we have smoke spec.js, and we have the login spec.js. Let's go ahead and just run everything and see what everything is. So the example tests are probably just boilerplate code. Let's go look at the actual login test. And it says they're all successful. Let's click through each one. It looks like it's expecting for the first field to be visible, the second field to be visible, and then filling those 2 fields, followed by clicking the login button and doing some additional assertions to make sure that you're logged in. The next test is doing something similar. So this one is just making sure that all of the login page elements are visible. Next test is verifying that the login button is disabled by default. And the final test is just verifying that the page goes to the correct place after logging in. Honestly, that took less than 5 minutes to create 4 automated tests. Of course, you're going to want to validate the results of what it actually checked for and validate that the steps that it gave you are actually correct. But for this simple test, this looks good. Final thing that I'm going to show you using AI is how to create documentation. I'm going to ask it to create easy to follow instructions on setting up a new Playwright project. Go ahead and run this. All right, mine is done. It says, here's a clear beginner-friendly guide to set up a brand new Playwright project from scratch. This assumes Node.js installed. So first of all, if you don't want that assumption in there, reprompt it and ask it to redo it, including the steps for how to install Node.js. So let's go through this real quick. Prerequisites are Node.js and a code editor, Second is create a new project folder, initialize Playwright, project structure overview, run the sample test, run test in headed mode, open the Playwright test report, create your first test. It gives us a useful command sheet and common gotchas. So basically what this does is it did more than we asked. So we asked it for instructions on how to set up the new Playwright projects. So the instructions for setting up are steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5. But after that, you are going above and beyond. So it is asking you to run test in headed mode. So it's a different mode of running your test. It's allowing you to see the test report. It's helping you create your first test. It's giving you a useful command cheat sheet and also some common gotchas. So this might be too much information for what you're trying to document. If you strictly just wanted the steps to install and set it up, just keep the first 5 steps, paste it into wherever you're going to share it. But before sharing it out, I recommend walking through the steps yourself to make sure that it actually works and it's reproducible. And if this isn't what you wanted at all, reprompt it and ask it to refine it and give you exactly what you needed. AI works best when it supports good QA thinking, not when it replaces it. The testers who get the most value out of AI are the ones who already understand how systems fail, how users behave, and how risk shows up in real products. Start small. Use AI to remove friction, speed up analysis, and improve the quality of your work. If this video was useful, like and subscribe. More QA and AI related content coming up next.